Mr. Greenberg, Mr. Greenberg!
What is it, student me?
I'm taking the digital SAT tomorrow, and I am freaking out. I've been studying so hard for months, and I don't want to blow it. What can I do?
Well, student me, I have good news and I have bad news. The bad news is that with 24 hours to go, there isn't a lot you can do to dramatically change your score on the test. That said, the good news is there are a few simple steps you can take to maximize your chance of having the best performance possible. And they may not be exactly what you think they are, so stay tuned. Hello, I'm Nathan Greenberg, founder of Ivy League Mentors, and I've been teaching the SAT since before many of you were born. And today we're going to be covering what you should be doing in the 24 hours leading up to test time. So the first tip is to prepare everything that you're going to need for tomorrow ahead of time. Because on the morning of the test, you do not want to be rushing around looking for things, or even worse, to forget something important and only find out after you get to the test center.
I guess that makes sense, but what do I need to bring?
So if you're going to be taking the digital SAT, one important thing to bring is a testing device with the Blue Book app already installed. And I should add that you want that device to be fully charged because you don't want to have to worry about it running out of batteries while you take the test. Now, on the note of charge, you might also want to bring a charger, but be aware that not all testing centers will necessarily have a place for you to plug in, so you might not be able to charge during the exam. If you're not sure, contact your own testing center and ask them specifically. Another option that many students like is to bring a backup device in case their main one fails. I highly recommend this as worrying about device failure can be a major source of stress on the test that you want to avoid. The other thing that it's absolutely necessary to bring is your admissions ticket with a photo ID. Again, this is super important because they will not let you take the test without it, and you don't want to get to the test center only to get turned away. Now, in addition to those must-haves, there are also some other items that I would highly recommend bringing. The first would be pens or pencils, because even though this is a digital SAT, you are permitted to write some stuff on paper for scratch work, and that can be really helpful, especially on the math section. Now, speaking of the math section, you're also probably going to want to bring a calculator that you are comfortable using. Again, there is a calculator built into the app, but it's not necessarily going to be the one that's easiest for you to use. Another thing you might want to bring is a watch. Again, the Blue Book app does have a timer built into it, but for instance, if you want to know how much time is left during break, it's not going to help you, so having your own watch could be helpful. But do keep in mind that you are not allowed to bring a smartwatch or anything that connects to the internet. Another thing that you're really going to want to bring is a snack and some water, because it's a very long test and you don't want to get hungry in the middle of it. The good news is that there is a break, so if you bring a snack, that's going to be a perfect opportunity for you to sort of recharge and replenish your energy. Anyways, those are the most important things that I can think of for now, but I will also leave a link in the comments to the official College Board website where they provide a more detailed list of what you can and cannot bring to the testing center. So the next thing you really want to be doing with 24 hours to go before the test is to relax.
But Mr. Greenberg, how am I supposed to relax the day before the test? Don't you think I should be cramming or something?
Not necessarily, because in general, I don't think there's much you can learn at this point. I mean, think about it. How long have you been preparing for the SAT?
A couple of months?
Right. And in a way, you've been preparing far longer than that because the SAT covers math and reading and writing, and you've probably been taking these subjects since you were in kindergarten. So ask yourself this: how much of a difference is a few hours before the test really going to make? That said, there are a few exceptions to this rule. First, if you have not taken any practice tests yet, you really need to take one because it's important to have a clear idea of the content and format of the test so you don't have to be seeing it for the first time on test day. Another situation in which you might want to do some last-minute review is if you've already taken a bunch of practice tests and you've managed to identify one or two specific areas of weakness. And by brushing up in those particular areas, you could theoretically boost your score slightly on the test. But the best argument of all for cramming is, in the case of many students, it actually helps them relax. I know that sounds kind of strange, but I think it gives them a feeling of peace, to know that they're in control and that they've done everything possible to achieve the best score on the test. So, if the idea of not studying the day before the test makes you feel more stressed, then by all means, study. But again, keep in mind that you don't have to. The key is relaxation. Now, one way I personally like to do that is through exercise. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but physical activity is actually one of the best forms of relaxation. That's because it reduces stress hormones like cortisol, and also releases endorphins, which promote a sense of well-being. I'm not a science expert, I just happened to learn that from an SAT passage. But if you're not into exercise, that's okay too. The point is that you're doing something that helps you relax. That said, there are a few things you'll want to keep in mind. First, if your idea of relaxation involves using substances which you are probably too young to be legally using already, that's not a great idea because it's not going to leave you feeling your sharpest on test day. Second, if your idea of relaxing involves playing a lot of computer games or something like that, I also would be careful there because those activities, while they may seem relaxing, actually are very stimulating and are likely to keep you up, which is not great because, and this brings me to my next point, go to bed early. You'll perform a lot better on the test if you're taking it on a good night of sleep.
But Mr. Greenberg, how am I supposed to sleep when I'm taking the SAT tomorrow?
I know, it can be hard to go to bed early, especially if you're the kind of person who usually stays up very late. One tip is to develop a habit of sleeping early, but if the test is tomorrow, there isn't much you can do. That said, I would still make an effort to get into bed early. But if you can't sleep, don't fight it. If you find that your stress is keeping you up, get up and do something that's going to help relieve that stress, such as reading a book, or tidying up your room, or rewatching this video on YouTube. And after you've done that activity for a little bit, try sleeping again. Now this brings us to our next topic. What should you be doing the morning of the test? Now your goal when you get to the testing center is to be alert but calm, and there are a few specific things that you can do to maximize your chances of being in that condition. The first one is to wake up early.
But won't that just make me more tired?
Yes, I understand that waking up earlier than you already have to may seem counterintuitive, but think about it this way. How do you usually feel right when you wake up? Probably pretty groggy. You're not usually thinking your best, and sometimes it takes a couple of hours to get your brain working at full speed. By waking up a little bit earlier, you give yourself a chance to do this. Now there are a few other ways you can also try to get your brain going. One of them is by solving a few questions, just to get yourself thinking in test mode. Another trick, as I mentioned before, is to get some exercise. But keep in mind, if you are exercising on the morning of the test, you want to keep it very light, because if you work too hard, you're going to be exhausted. Another tip is to have breakfast. But here too, moderation is key. A little bit of food will give you energy, but if you eat too much, you're gonna feel full, and then you're gonna get really tired when you're taking the test. And you definitely don't want that to happen.
Mr. Greenberg, my friend's friend had 2 Monster energy drinks before the SAT, and he got a 1600.
Oh, student me. I'm not sure that that's a great idea. I mean, have you ever had a Monster energy drink before?
Well, I had a sip of one once.
Well, then you really have no way of knowing how it's going to affect your body. You see, caffeine and all those other chemicals that they put in these drinks are great stimulants and can keep you awake, but if you are not used to them, they can also kick your body into overdrive and give you what I call the jitters, a sense of extreme anxiety, where it's really difficult to focus on anything. Another problem would be after the energy wears off, you might be likely to crash, and that's also not great for your performance on the test. So, my advice would be to use caffeine and other stimulants in moderation. Don't take significantly more than you are used to taking on a regular basis so that you know your body can handle it. And if you do decide to have some caffeine or an energy drink before the test, you might also want to bring another one to consume during break so that you can re-up your energy then. So that brings us up to test time. But since we're already here, let's talk for just another moment about a few things you can do during the test itself. The first is to not worry about how other people are doing on the test. I know how it feels when you see that somebody next to you is already done with a section and is taking a nap at their desk and you're like still on the first question. But if you are thinking about how others are doing, that is not going to help your score. Similarly, I know it can be really tempting when you are taking the test to be thinking about what kind of score you're going to be getting. You'll be calculating it in your mind. Oh, I got this question wrong, and I might have gotten this one wrong, so the best score I can get now would be maybe a 750 on this section. I understand that reaction, but keep in mind that the more you're thinking about what your score will probably be, the lower the score actually will be, and that's because your mind is not on the test. Finally, and I can't emphasize this enough, don't try anything drastically different on the test. Right? The real test is not a chance for you to be trying out a new strategy or doing something a different way than you've already been practicing. I always tell my students to practice the way they plan to take the test and to take the test the way they've been practicing. This will ensure that you actually benefit from all that hard work that you've done preparing. So there you have it. Taking the SAT is never fun, but if you follow these simple steps, I'm pretty sure that you can have the best testing experience possible. So with that in mind, good luck. I hope you reach your target score.